Hey, listen, both of y'all, welcome to the live stream. What are we doing today?
We are talking about one of my favorite things, Jupyter notebooks. They are basically my daily driver. They have been since basically I started programming, just because I really like being able to put pictures and stuff. A wide variety of reasons, but notebooks are the best. Fight me.
Yes, as I'm not a notebook aficionado myself, but I understand they're quite popular. And actually, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah, and let you go ahead and get in the driver's seat. Y'all chat. Y'all say hello to Sarah and Michael. Thank them for being here. And yeah, let's do it. 0 to hero. Here we go.
Yeah, and I want to encourage folks, please put questions at any point in the chat. I'm watching, so I will hopefully be able to ask them or answer them as soon as we can. But yeah, so my name is Sarah Kaiser. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft here. My background is mainly in doing scientific research with Python. And so Jupyter notebooks were kind of my go-to. You set up a lab experiment that way, you do data analysis that way. So yeah, like I said, they're kind of my favorite thing. And Michael, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Michael. As Burke pointed out, last name is Lively. I'm an engineer on the vscode team. Right now, most of my work is focused around notebooks. So they've been really fun to use. I graduated recently, actually, at the end of 22 from Wisconsin-Madison. So moved out to Seattle from the Midwest, and now I'm working on notebooks. They were great to use in school throughout some of the AI classes I was working on, and it's fun to be a part of the team that works on them for real. But yeah, no, it's been really fun. Sarah and I are looking forward to showing you some of the features.
Yeah. And last really quick question, because I always ask this when I'm streaming with folks. What is your favorite extension / color theme? And also please chime in.
Ooh, I'm going to have to go for the extension. I'm going to have to go better comments because I don't think I've ever written the right code on the first run through. So I am littering my files with to-dos and exclamation marks, and better comments is one of those that makes them really bright and hard to miss. That way I at least try to forget about them less before I'm pushing the final product. Theme wise, oh god, I think it's a new theme every week. I get bored and then I have to recolor everything in my entire workspace. So right now I've been using just the standard Dark Plus that ships with VS Code. It's a great theme and it supports all the new stuff we're working on. So it's great to test on, especially as we're developing new UI elements. But otherwise, I have been a sucker for Monakai. It's always been a good one. Dracula's classics, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, mine are the Python environment extension that allows you to see all your Python environments on the side, and Fairy Floss. It's kind of my go-to color theme, just because I like my pastels.
Nice.
All right. 1 second, I'm going to get a drink.
I was already reaching for my water. It's early. It's on the West Coast. It's barely 8 a.m.
Yeah, we're both in Seattle, so we're like, caffeine is percolating just like it did through the machine, through my brain. Jabarthi in chat says, yeah, I find it hard to find the best fitting theme extension. TBH, sometimes I actually choose like one that feels right for the project. So sometimes that's a really aggressive theme when I don't really know like what's going on. Sometimes it's very chill. Okay, so let's look at some notebooks because that's what we're here to chat about. So we have Michael is going to be our both demoer here for today. And kind of how I wanted to get started here, Michael, is like I do, like I said, I do a lot of my work in notebooks, and you can see he has one open right now that I called Sad Notebook. And so this is kind of like usually what I don't know if this is kind of what other people's notebooks commonly look like, but like as I'm working and developing, this is kind of my scratch pad. So like there's all kinds of like duplicated code and just giant code blocks that really should probably, you know, if I really want to leverage what a notebook is, which maybe I should very briefly explain what that is if you're not familiar. I figure most folks here are. But basically, Jupyter notebooks are a type of document that can display both kind of like text, or usually in Markdown, often also supports math jacks and formulas. But you can basically, it's a cell-based sort of structure. So you can have like cells of text and cells of code. And Jupyter notebooks also don't have to be exclusively Python. That's primarily the language I work with, but there's all kinds of, there's like .NET kernels, there's I've seen some wacky stuff with C++ kernels. So like there are a lot of different options, even polyglot notebooks where you can actually use multiple languages in the same notebook, which is kind of like, oh, R, yep. Jupyter actually stands for Julia, Python, and R. That's kind of the, was the originally supported kind of backend kernels for. So there's kind of the two elements, the kind of document front end that we're looking at here. And probably the first thing I want to indicate there, Michael, can you open the kernel selector?
Of course.
We do have to tell, just like whether you edit Jupyter notebooks in, like there's lots of different places. A lot of folks use them in Colab or in code spaces or just locally. But you always got to tell the notebook where you want to actually run your code. So here, can you select demo?
Of course.
So yeah, you can see we've got a couple different environments that it's picked up for where we could run the Python code here in these notebooks, because it is Python. But this, yeah, basically, you know, like I did one of those things where like you going through a sample, you know, I at least put the link for where the original source is, and then just data stuff. This isn't super great. So like, what would be, speaking to Michael here, we have a couple different ways to interact with the notebook.
Yeah.
There is a bar at the top. What is that?
Yeah, of course. I'll go ahead and just take you on a little UI tour of notebooks. So really, obviously, the biggest thing you're going to notice is this isn't just one big text file. We've got a bunch of cells. So the best way to interact with them, you have this global toolbar at the top. So that's going to have all your buttons. You're going to have inserting cell buttons. You're going to have all your execution related stuff. And then you're also going to have some variable and data related stuff here on the side. And anytime you want, you can always right click and you can hide a data view, and then you can pull it right back. There's a couple other toolbars that are fun to look at. Each cell, they're actually going to have this little guy up here. This is going to be your cell toolbar. And then you've also got your run button. And besides that, if you're working and you're at the bottom of a cell and you really want a cell right here, you've also got this insert toolbar that'll show up when you hover between some cells. So that is a nice little view of all the parts of a notebook. And then you also have the outline view down here, which is going to help you navigate around a bit, and can also lend a bit of a hand.
Which, because this is not a nice polished notebook, probably doesn't end up being super helpful. Folks in chat were asking if this is in a dev container, and it totally is. Oh yeah, thank you for, this is the link. If you want to look at both the SAD notebook here and what we will take out of the oven later, which is a much nicer looking version of this notebook, you can go to the repo at aka.ms/notebook-hero. Thank you for the reminder, producer. So yeah, like this, obviously this isn't exactly a notebook that I'm ready to share with folks. So probably the first thing I'd want to do is like maybe move around some of these cells, break some of them up. What would be the best way to do that?
Yeah. So we've actually got a lot of tools for you in that situation. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up some key maps that we have, because everyone loves being a bit more productive just on their keyboard. So I'm going to pull up one of our extensions. And this is one of the great things about VS Code, is that you've got all your extensions to choose from. So right now, if I go to the contributions, you can see that we have a lot of key commands that are contributed by this Jupyter key map extension. So things like executing cells, cutting and pasting them, and all of that can be done right from your keyboard. So if let's say, okay, the first thing we might want to look at, we've got this one cell, and I'm looking down. This is a 52 line cell, Sarah. I don't know if we can call this a notebook. We're getting closer to a Python file, but
Yeah.
Let's
so
go ahead. Go ahead,
maybe
sir.
we can split it right before I start, at least split off the plotting. So I think if you go to
Okay.
scroll down to the bottom of the cell,
Yep.
we'll do the easy thing of pairing it off from the bottom. So at line 45,
45.
yeah. Yep.
Cool. Sweet. So yeah, so if we're still learning, we can always go ahead and refer back to the keyboard shortcuts. I know I'm looking for notebook cell split, and that's going to be Control-Shift-. So I think I should have screencasting mode on. So we Control-Shift-, and now the cell has been chunked right off. So now we've got all of our data work, and then we have our plotting right here at the bottom. So that goes ahead and splits the cells nicely.
Yeah. Cool. So it also looks like I had an error maybe down in the cell below that.
Let me go take
Let's
a look.
see. Let's see what so we got some nice color coded error messages here. Oh, it looks like I probably ran those out of order since something wasn't defined. How can I, like, what are my run options here?
Yeah,
Because
so you've got a
this
couple
happens
of
a
them.
lot when I'm doing notebook stuff.
Yeah. So right now, we've got a couple options. So we've always got this handy dandy run all button, which I click way too much in the toolbar. And what that's going to do is that's just going to execute everything top to bottom in your notebook. You've also got your run button on the cell, and that'll just execute this cell. And then you've also got executing everything above and below. So these two will be really fun because part of the beauty of notebooks is that you can sort of decouple your code, right? So we've pulled this cell and it's now below all the others. So say there was something we wanted to change in the feature names, we could change the feature names and then run only the cells below and still have all of the info from the top cells, and we still have all our variables stored and everything will execute properly. So
Yeah.
that is probably what I would use if I wanted to run these back in order. So I can go ahead. I'll
Try
go
it,
ahead and
yeah.
give us a fresh base to run from. Why don't we go ahead and run all?
Sounds good.
Exactly which order we were missing. So wait for it to execute and you'll see the cell status is running. So there we go.
Nice. So, all right, there wasn't a huge error with the code.
Nothing big.
Yeah, and for context, kind of what I was messing around with here is there's a great sample from the scikit-learn project, which is a machine learning package that kind of shows a really neat example of it's synthetic data. So it kind of, that first chunk that probably needs some comments and some better documentation, but basically generates some fake like hourly wage data based on a couple input parameters, things like the person's experience, the parental hourly wage, college degree, and ability. It's totally fabricated and just sampled from a bunch of different normal and beta distributions. But the whole point of the code that we're looking at here is basically to show that if you do linear regression and if you don't know all of the parameters going into the data that you're analyzing, that's going to impact your regressions or analysis. Seems pretty obvious, but sometimes it's hard to detect the effects of if you don't have someone hand you the solution key to a real life problem and like, these are all the factors that influence it. So someone said they needed to run quick, but was going to ask, if I'm working with Python, how can the VS Code notebooks help me? And is Anaconda required in these cases? However you want, like however you have a like Python or Python install on your machine, the kernel selector should pick up. So if you have a working environment where you're working on that sort of code, you should just be able to select it here. So normally when I open this on my machine, there's a bajillion options because I have Python installed 800 times on my machine. But yeah, that was great, Michael. If you can click on so there's a few options here because we are working in a dev container, which is really nice. It's kind of like a Dockerized, isolated way to only see then Python related to what's inside this basically base Ubuntu image and then one Conda environment. But if we do the select another kernel, one of the really nice things about working with Jupyter Notebooks and VS Code is VS Code doesn't have to own the kernel. So the kernel could be running on a server at your school, or on your machine at home, or something like that. And you can, as long as you have the connection string for it, you can connect to it. Or you can connect to have code spaces spin up a kernel for you, and then that just kind of keeps going in the cloud. And if your laptop on the train loses Wi-Fi, you're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of nice options there for finding the right kernels to actually run your code. Oh yeah, someone also, Explore Test, says their kernels are running in WSL.
Yeah.
So if you want
Good
to,
option.
that's another awesome choice. Okay, cool. Great questions. So, what were some of the next things that we wanted to talk about? Yeah, you use some code shortcuts. Oh, I did. I think I see something misspelled here.
Better eye than I
College.
do.
Yeah. College degrees.
Oh.
I think I just noticed this.
Yep.
Oops.
Good eye.
So how would I go? What's the easiest way to go about fixing? I mean, I could Control
Yep.
F and then replace all of them, but I don't know.
So I think starting from the bottom, what we can do, if we look at it, so even just highlighting this word, we're going to get symbol highlighting all throughout the notebook. So actually, if we go ahead and highlight this, we'll see it's used here, 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 and then I don't actually know if it's used anywhere else. So it feels like if we're going to try and do this manually, we might miss something. So one of the really cool things we can do is in VS Code, we've got a refactor button. So if I hit F2, I've got this really handy dandy refactor menu. And what this will actually do is it'll rename all the way throughout the entire notebook. So if I just say, let's toss that extra E in there, or actually let me show people the preview. So I'll go Shift Enter. Whoop, I disappeared. Let me go find it again. I did. And that is a conflicting key map. So it'll go ahead and it'll show you a little reference menu, and it'll show you all of the things that you are going to rename. But now we have it all renamed to college degrees properly, so we don't have to worry about that. The other cool thing, just to make sure you're not missing anything, is we have the really cool thing called Find All References. So if you select the variable you're trying to click on, and then Find All References, you'll see this nice little references panel pop up in your sidebar view, and then you can click through and it'll focus all of the different instances of the college degrees.
Got it. Yeah, I'm very wishy-washy sometimes when I name my variables, so that can be very helpful at especially finding, because if I Control F and I do something where I'm naming something DF and then DF underscore other things, I might accidentally, if I just do a Control F, replace all.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think if you're cool with it, we can probably pop over to the we spend some time making a nicer version of this notebook. Just so we can.
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull up the other one. And with the magic of editing, we now have this. So now this is a notebook that I'd feel a bit happier handing off to a coworker. So and actually, now that I've started scrolling, we've got another UI element to show off. And actually, this is one that I'm a bit more personally involved in. We've got sticky scroll. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this for normal code editors. You'll see sort of the header of your function or your class sort of stuck at the top of your screen. So it's recently a feature that's gotten a lot of polish and has been something that I've sort of spearheaded the design on. So up here from right below the global toolbar, you've got these little header lines. So if you're using Markdown headers, which we should all be using Markdown headers, it makes notebooks easier to follow, you can scroll past them. And now that'll be a great way to sort of contextualize the data in the cells you're looking at. And you'll see that floating right there at the top. Sarah, your pretty notebook has a lot of really good formatting.
I like it's not only is it more helpful for other folks, it also helps me remember when I'm coming back to a project, like, what did this mean or do again?
Yeah.
So someone asked, what does it mean to name a variable correctly? I mean, I guess what I mean there is like usually as you're working through a project, you maybe don't know, like there are scope or aspects that you kind of haven't thought of, or, you know, realize, oh, I have two things that kind of are similar and related. Maybe I want them actually to have similar names and they didn't originally. And so
Yeah.
it's more of kind of like a polishing code. Like I guess there's never exactly a wrong variable name. Certainly they're not going to defend that, but yeah.
Something I run into is like if I'll name a variable just index, and then say I'm like running a nested loop, and then I have index 1 and index 2, and suddenly you're trying to index your way into an array or something, and you're like, wait, is it index 1? Is it index 2? Is it temporary index? Is it previous index? And you sort of, it's nice to contextualize the things you're referring to in your code. It'll make it a lot easier, and it'll save you time as you troubleshoot some silly mistakes.
Yeah, so a lot of these are basically examples of some of the code and text editing that you would see normally in VS Code, but that are actually fully available in notebooks, which is really nice because even I use often the like keyboard shortcuts for moving around lines or multi-cursor, which is, it's really nice to then just straight up be able to use those in cells.
Yeah,
it looks like the question about naming variables is spicy for chat, which is great.
That's some opinions about our variable names.
Yep. So someone did ask though, how do you get the Jupyter Notebook support extensions in VS Code? So.
Yeah. So VS Code has that's sort of one of the most beautiful parts about VS Code is the extension ecosystem. So in this dev container, we've got a lot of extensions installed, or maybe not too many. I'm sure my extension list gets a lot bigger, but right now this is the best way. You're gonna be able to install just the Jupyter extension, and this will come with a nice little pack of 4. It'll give you the key maps, it'll give you renderers, cell tags, and some other features. And this is what's going to give you support for all those Jupyter kernels, Jupyter servers, and will help you get that notebook set up out of the box. But the beauty of it is actually when we are in VS Code, we actually have a very native out-of-the-box notebook experience. So execution will be limited because that's a lot of what Jupyter contributes. But if I had Jupyter disabled, I would still be able to view this notebook, all of its outputs, and see what I'm working with here. So to view a notebook, we have all of that native within just the base product of VS Code. But if you want a lot of the Jupyter related features, then you'll go ahead and you'll install this extension, and it should be able to walk you through quite a bit of it. And then one other thing to call out is I know some people are Colab users and they might have their own key maps that they're enjoying. So we also have support. So if someone made a Google Colab key map, so they can use the keyboard shortcuts, they're useful. So really, if there's something you want to do, an extension has probably done it.
Yeah, if I'm working on something, especially in like a new or different language or framework, I search in the extension bar, and then pretty much always there's an extension
exactly
ready to go. Yeah, so I can think of a few more things that might be nice to look at. Let's look at notebook diffing, because this is one of the big drawbacks, or kind of, it's a little bit more awkward to diff a notebook than just a regular code file, because technically it's encoded in JSON, and looking at diffs on JSON files is not nice. So we could even look at the diff for like open the Git panel. We can actually look at the diff for the SAD notebook that we just opened or we're just editing.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the stuff we were doing with the SAD notebook. So let me scroll down to get some diffs. Yeah, so as we split cells, you'll see sort of the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and this will be the diff between sort of the initial commit and the current working tree. So you'll notice that we split off this cell, so now the cell has popped down into its own little area. And if we removed any inputs or outputs, they'll also be showing here. So it's a great way to side by side see. And if you're committing early and committing often, which is something a lot of people will tell you to do, you'll be able to actually see like, okay, if something broke right now and we have no clue what happened, we swear we didn't change anything, it should be working normally. Usually a diff view can help you find sort of what you're missing. So in the case that, let's say in the SAD notebook, let's see, I had misspelled RNG and didn't have any IntelliSense to tell me I did. I know right now we have some good language features, so Pylance would call it out for us. But let's say we didn't have Pylance, and if I scrolled up or down, that's probably buried in here. Yeah. So right here, we'll see that, oh, I accidentally dropped a G, and then we will know to pull that back. So
yeah,
very useful.
In that split view, if you can look one more time, there was something that I actually learned recently from someone who I was working with on a notebook. And if you go to the triple dots way up in the top right, yep. So sometimes I don't really care about the output changes, or I don't care about metadata changes because maybe I'm running it on a different machine, but it doesn't really matter. It's really nice to just, on a one-off basis, turn off diffing on those sorts of things, so I can just see the code changes, which are rendering a little bit funky here. But
I was gonna say, it is a bit odd. There's that huge black space, but
yeah, normally it expands the whole cell. But we are working in insiders for this, just because we wanted to show off some of the cool notebook features that Michael is working on. So I'm guessing that because when I tested this in normal, it was working. So this is in insiders. That's my
insiders always had some quirks to it, but it's always fun. And this is a segue to giving some feedback. So if this was something that we wanted to file a bug for, we could always say go to the help menu, and then we could report an issue. And that's the best way, because all of those issues, they get looked over directly by me. Gotta look through them all. No, we triage them sort of between the entire team. So they'll always get looked at, and you'll always get a nice response from one of the members of the team, if not me myself. I wonder if diffing the other way to diff is, so if you're working only on one file, that source control tab's great. But say you wanted to actually diff between this really nicely polished notebook and our SAD notebook, we could compare selected as I find it. And then you'll see a bit more of the in-depth diffing, and you'll see a lot more things highlighted. So as we have a lot more cells, these ones are actually rendering full size. But you can see that they would all show up here compared to this SAD notebook, which is over here on the right.
All in one cell. Sweet. Yeah, Explorist also pointed out that VS Code has IntelliSense over just kind of has that support. Your general Jupyter notebook doesn't necessarily have, it has some syntax highlighting, some language server features, but certainly not anywhere as extensive as the IntelliSense available here from Pylance. Is that the correct backing thing? So can you put your cursor in and show us some of the cool poppy-uppy things? That's the technical term for it.
Those are my favorite things. So in this first cell, so if I just type date df, right now we've already got some things popping up, and then let's go ahead, and I know df's a nice little data frame, so I can click dot, and now we already have a lot of suggestions. So we'll just go ahead and do, let's see, we'll do a line, head. So we'll toss an H, and then already in H will auto-populate a couple things we can do, and we can just enter, and we have df.head. So a lot of different autocompletes we can do.
Which is different than, someone was asking if we're using Copilot. We don't actually have Copilot installed right now, just because I wanted to be able to isolate and show you this IntelliSense stuff is purely based on your code analysis. So there's no machine learning to that at all, actually. It's just everything that it can derive from what it sees in your code and what packages and things are installed in your kernel. So if you're having problems with IntelliSense throwing a bunch of red squigglies in your code, being like, this doesn't exist, whatever, double check what your kernel is, because That is usually whenever I have problems there, I'm like, I didn't select a kernel yet, or I'm on the wrong kernel. That's usually the best way to fix those sorts of issues.
These language features are really, I think, what sets VS Code apart from a lot of other editors, just because like you have all of the feature-rich suite that comes from Pylance, and you've got all of those language features really just embedded in this cell. And there's also extensions like Rough is one that I can call out that is working on things like code actions for the entire scope of a notebook. So things like organizing imports, you can just run it against your entire notebook, and then it'll just take care of itself. And that's all based on sort of that language plugin and all of the language server protocols that we've set up to run all of this in the back end.
And certainly Copilot does work great in notebooks. Honestly, I found Copilot works. Some of the best Copilot responses come in Jupyter notebooks and Python code, just because that is a huge kind of majority of the source that it's being trained on. So like any pandas manipulation, matplotlib, you're covered.
Yeah, exactly.
It
knows a shocking amount. A lot of the time, I mean, a lot of the code I write is driven by Copilot. It's a very, very useful thing to help drive productivity.
I was going to, so there's a couple images in the notebook here. Do you want to talk about, because like if I was running, before I used VS Code to host my Jupyter notebooks, I would have always have lines to basically export my images and save them out to files. So I'd have it was boilerplate sorts of things that I didn't like having there. So what can I do here that's maybe easier?
Yeah, so right now, right off the bat, I mean, you can see all of your images just right within the notebook, and that's already a really big perk of notebooks is you get all of these rich outputs. So if you wanted to use any of these extensions, like here we're using Seaborn, and we have a couple great plots here, and then this is just all embedded in the notebook. So you can toss this notebook to a friend, just copy the file and send it to them over email. And I don't know why I chose email there, but they'll have all these images when they open it up. You can also see if we hover, we've got sort of these copy and save icons. So if I save as, then we're already gonna get our little saving, and we can show you all the ins and outs of my local machine. But these are a couple of ways we can save. We can also, I haven't played around with this paste button, but is this? Wonder what format it saved that in. But yeah, so there's also these little plugins. You can always screenshot too. So if I'm not sure if you guys can see me screenshotting. I don't think you can see it, but I have taken a screenshot. It's probably why my screen froze a little bit. And then if I paste it in, I probably have a setting I didn't need to do. Paste as. F B. So there's some settings you can enable, and then you'll get really nice inline pasting, and then it'll all be stored in the JSON behind the notebook.
Maybe trying a markdown cell.
Oh, good call.
Because I'm not sure I know what it would mean to paste into a code cell. There you go.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it was. And then you've got, see, right now we have paste as attachment, so you'll see that it is stored here. So this is the screenshot I took. You can clearly see it's just part of the screen that it already was that
It's a potato version.
Exactly. So if you ever want to toss around just pure base 64 encoded images, notebooks are your tool. But yeah, so it makes them really portable, right? Because a lot of the times I've sent files to a friend, and I've sent a workspace. I've sent a workspace to a friend, and I've deleted all of the image or data files, and now it's just stored within the notebook. So it's one file to keep track of. I don't have to think about all the other things I'm sending.
So someone asked, they were commenting on native image support for the notebooks. They're definitely, like, if you have images and stuff alongside or put the path just like you would normally, you don't have to have the image embedded in base 64 in the notebook. So
oh yeah, 100%.
That totally works too. I think I've used that trick a lot if I don't want to have, like, if I just want to share the notebook and I don't want to have to share like a folder of auxiliary files. That can be a nice way to, it's just as a part of the notebook, and I don't have to. And then if I change it, I can turn off, look at, I can adjust my diff accordingly. Someone also asked, can you save it as a web app or do you need -plotly for it? There are actually a couple different ways that if you want to kind of promote it or change it from the current, oh, Chris, who had made the comment about image support, said they were joking, paste into code as opposed to markdown.
Yeah, that was
Got it.
definitely me having a morning moment.
No, that's cool. So I wanted to talk briefly or speak briefly to how you can like export or change the format here of the notebook.
Yeah.
If you go to the triple dots up next to the variable by the kernels, yeah, there
Yep.
you go. The export menu there. This is really neat that you can basically export your notebook. Like, say you want to actually just you're done kind of messing around in a notebook and you just want to turn it into a script. This will basically extract all of the code into a PI file and leave the markdown stuff as comments. Which and interestingly, it's still it uses some syntax to kind of indicate cells, so you can actually like run Jupyter Notebook cells. Like there isn't anything special about this file. Like it's just the fact that there are the syntax of the comment and then %%. That's just a special secret incantation that indicates this is a cell. And so you have the choice of running it like that, or you can just get rid of all of them and then you have your Python script.
Yeah.
But also the other options there were like PDF or HTML. So if you wanted to embed it on a site or something like that, that would be your standard like export options that you would have from or from like any Jupyter host.
I'm curious. I've never exported a notebook as a PDF.
Yeah, I don't generally do that because usually the person I'm sharing it with will want to play around with it or edit it. But if you needed to put it in a report or something like that, or someone I think had earlier asked about how did the tools in VS Code help with productionizing notebooks?
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely a huge its own topic, and there are definitely some good extensions for like if you're doing that with like Azure pipelines or things like that. There are absolutely tools to do that. I'm gonna claim scope here and try to keep it on point, but that's a good idea. We should maybe make that a future stream to go into all of the because like goodness. And there's also the like should you use notebooks in production? I feel like you should use what works. I don't think there needs to be a war between notebooks and traditional script files. So let's see. I'm just checking to see if there's any other comments real quick. I think that's the most I can. Oh, someone was asking how this is set up to run in a container. Can you just look at the JSON dev container stuff?
I can pop over there. So right now, Sarah did all the magic for this, and I just sort of piggybacked it. But we've got Docker files, we've got dev containers, and a lot of this is being driven through one of the extensions that I have installed locally. It will be the remote development pack. And this is a good one if you want to work with like dev containers and stuff like that. This will give you away from, like I'm working locally in VS Code. I know Sarah does a lot of stuff from just the browser and a code space, but if you're working local, you can get the remote development pack and that'll drive a lot of this stuff. And then you get this handy dandy window over here. And off of the dev container, it's got a Docker file, and then I've got Docker running in the background. So it was really easy to just open up Docker, and then I open it up. I forgot about it. Just let it run in the background, and then from your remote Explorer view, I was able to just connect to my open container. Or it also lets you spin open a container, and there's always a lot of really good welcome text that'll get you pointed in the right direction if you don't know exactly where you're going.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to learn more about that, that's something I obviously also often talk about. We have a ACA or a link to a talk that I gave with another nice repo for samples at /PyCascades _dev containers. Thank you, producer. So you can check that out if you want to learn more about that. It's the best thing since sliced cheese. I always like pretty much anytime I get to a really gnarly, like there's something weird on my machine, it usually is coming from leaking things between different environments or not using the one that I think I am because they're named the same, but somehow like, I don't know. It's really nice to have, you should always pretty much use environments for your Python projects, but sometimes there's things outside your Python project that also kind of need isolation. So,
I've definitely gotten myself into trouble just installing, just random packages globally across my entire computer willy-nilly. So,
and one nice thing about the dev containers is that you can also specify, because part of it, it's like, while you can use Docker files, you can just start with an image, but you can specify all your VS Code settings too. So, which is really helpful. Like if I want to share a project with somebody and they don't have like the Jupyter extension installed, or they don't have the key maps installed, or Copilot or something, anything I want them to have when they're interacting with my code, I can basically curate the entire front end for them as well. So that makes it a lot easier. I don't hand someone a notebook and then it's like, oh, that doesn't work on my machine because the setting, there's some different, UI elements that I hid that they don't have. Anyway, which does remind me a lot of you kind of showed this already, Michael, but a lot of the UI elements for notebooks and stuff it's really highly customizable. So like if, you don't like having the toolbar on the cell or something like that, or the pop-up menu in between, there's lots of ways to customize those, turn them off, turn them on, change them. So definitely explore and take a look at if you're using this and want things to look a little bit different, take a look at all those settings.
You've got things like consolidating the run button. You can turn off sort of the floating toolbar. So now like our run button has debug, execute above and below. So we've trimmed up here, and there's a lot of other things that are tagging along. So you can really make the notebook experience exactly what you want it. I think someone in the chat mentioned Data Wrangler for Microsoft.
Yes.
That's another good thing, because a lot of the point of using notebooks is a lot of them are used for data. You're not always just someone writing really simple code. Sometimes you want to visualize a lot of the data. So we've got this handy dandy view data button up here, and say we wanted to look at a data frame, and then it'll open up this view, and then you can see a ton of your data. There's a ton of things to do with it. I haven't played around a ton with this data set or what we're looking at here, so I know this is a great tool. I know Sarah's used it before, but this is actually one of the teams we're working with that a lot of this is actively under development. So things you see may change, and there's a lot of moving parts going on.
I think one of the coolest things about the Data Wrangler extension sort of concept here, not only can you kind of like view and see like some of these initial distributions, like we can see the ability distribution there is probably sampled from a normal, it is. But as you, like if you want to edit your data, like say maybe there's text data that you want that should be numeric or something, changing the type on a column, you can just do that. And then Data Wrangler will basically write the code that represents those actions. So you can see in the bottom left there's a panel that's like the cleaning steps. And so as you go through and do things, it will just kind of track that and mostly write the pandas code for it. So, but yeah, it's, as Michael said, it's definitely still under development. You can try out this is the preview install of it. But definitely check it out. And I'm sure folks will, you can see there's even a specific report an issue button at the top of the window there, just for quick access. But the teams always love, kind of feedback, even if it isn't like, this isn't a bug, but, I couldn't find this sort of thing.
Exactly.
Also, Bananas Code asked, does R have support in Visual Studio Code or only Python? Whatever your backend kernel is, You can select it, like you can select .NET kernels. My background's in quantum computing, so I've actually used Q#, which is a quantum programming language that has Jupyter kernel support. So I've done that in VS Code. In terms of what like sort of editor features you'll see in the notebook itself, just basically depends on what VS Code would know about that language. So if there's an extension for the language, like here, there is an extension for Python and Pylance to give you all of the nice syntax highlighting and the language kernel stuff in the back end. So there's absolutely R extensions. So you would have a very similar sort of experience if you were using an R kernel as compared to Python.
Yeah.
Do you want to just show the variable panel as well?
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. So one of the things, Jupyter also, right now, we're doing a couple things. So we've got this variable viewer down here, and this is a bit less feature rich, but a bit easier to take like a quick look at something in your data. So this is one thing that we have right now, but then we are actually doing a bit of a redesign. So if I go to my settings, actually I did just typo and pull up another good thing, but we'll save that for just a second. If we go variable view, we have this experimental variables view, which is currently under very active development. That'll end up putting a view here in this sort of run and debug panel. So the goal is to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit more performant, and give you another good view over here in sort of your run and debug. That'll let you view all of your notebook variables in that same way. That is very much under active development. So there's going to be a lot coming to that in the coming months, and we still have to figure out exactly what shape we want that to take. But it's good stuff.
That's a good segue, though, to one of the things I wanted to ask you, Michael. What are you kind of like, what's on your team's roadmap? Like, what are you excited about to kind of be working on coming up? Because I don't know about chat, but I always am. I read all of the release notes. I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a nerd there, but I always enjoy looking at all the cool stuff that's changed. So what's on deck?
Yeah. So for me, as I said, I work a lot in notebooks. So a couple of things I've done in the past, like I made the sticky scroll. I did a big rewrite for our toolbar so that now we can hide items and we get the viewing. And sort of the next thing I want to tackle is this outline view down here. So right now you'll see a lot of cells, and they've all got this little markdown icon next to them. So these are all your markdown cells. But you'll notice that like this cell right here, now let's take a look. That is, right here. That was a weird focus, but it's not actually a markdown header, right? And ideally, if I was thinking about an outline, we might not have it in there. So we're going to bring a bit more features and a bit more customizability to the outline view. Some things that I've been thinking about are maybe putting little run cell hooks in a couple different places so you could execute sections of cells in different ways. And that's going to be good. There's also things like sticky scroll. I think this could be a lot more useful than it already is. Right now, it's great for sort of contextualizing your data and the steps you're looking at. But things like right now, I just added folding so we can fold cells right from within there and make sure your notebook's clean and you only see what you're looking at or see what you care to look at. And yeah, there's a lot of navigation there. I know there's more like Copilot tooling we've been thinking about. There's the variable view being redone. One of our team members is working on improving remote support. So for remote kernels, there's always, I feel like that's always a scary land of can you get your remote kernel set up? And we're trying to make that as seamless as possible. So there's always good improvements coming sort of on every side of the table there. But yeah, that's the big stuff that I'm working on right now. I know the outline view is going to take a lot of my time. And if you want to get into like the nitty gritty, we have like the outline view is almost what powers the sticky scroll. So right now there's like 2 instances of the outline view, whereas that could be probably refactored and brought down to 1. And then maybe we've got some more performance for our end users and stuff like that. So some of the more algorithm based work is sometimes a bit more fun to sink a couple hours into.
Wait, do you work on VS Code in VS Code?
Well, of course. I mean, there's no other. Why would I use a different editor? Of course, I use VS Code.
No, I don't know why that question just occurred to me. I'm like,
No, yeah. So
obviously the answer is yes, but then it's funny that you're making the tool in the tool. So that's like a weird meta tool. I don't know.
It's the best way to do it, because for us, we always want to make sure by the time a feature gets to our end user, it's been tested rigorously. So we try to minimize if bugs make it into stable, we're trying to patch them as quick as possible. But the way we do that is right now, my VS Code icon's a bit more green than the blue is usually. So that's insiders, and every day you're going to have a new insiders. So every day the VS Code team, we're always committing and we're improving the product, and every day you're going to get a new build, and that's going to bring every feature as it's being actively developed. So that way, all of us developers, as we build a feature, we then start using it in our day-to-day. And we try and dog food all of our new features, because that's really what's going to give us the best experience possible and make sure, like, I know what I like in a code editor. So part of this is we are building an editor while using an editor. So we feel like we're some pretty qualified people to know, ooh, that really doesn't feel good when it behaves like that. So sometimes we get to catch things before they make it out.
Yeah, that's honestly, I work a lot with the notebook team and a bunch of other teams, and I'm basically the guinea pig for a lot of the features. So I'm the first to maybe file bugs and or call Michael up and complain about things.
I know I've got a couple issues that I need to take care of for Sarah. Gotta get them off the backlog.
Anyway, if there are any other questions in chat, please drop them. I'm gonna look real quick. Oh, someone said it'd be interesting to have an indicator of GPU CPU load while running heavy models. I think there's if you're running locally, I know there's an extension that puts CPU and other like machine stats in the bottom bar. But that's actually an interesting idea, especially if you're connected to a remote kernel, so you can't like feel how hot your machine is getting or how fast the fans are going while you're sitting
going
there.
in takeoff mode.
Yeah, as my laptop and desktop commonly do.
No, mine's on right
now. Let's see. Yeah, so that'd be a great one to file an issue and make a suggestion on. Or make your own. Like, what I think is really cool is there's some great templates tooling stuff set up for making your own extensions for VS Code. Not like truly most of the, Microsoft has a lot of folks who are working on the core like VS Code and kind of Jupyter extensions, but obviously you can make your own. And so like that can be a fun thing to play around with, like if you have access to like those parameters from wherever you're running your code. Explorer was also commenting that WSL kernels are working great for them. Awesome. That is totally true. So that stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux. And that basically is a way of, it's a full like Linux, Ubuntu, or whatever distro install on your Windows machine. So if you want to, like my work machine, daily driver is a Windows machine. Actually, the only person on my team who has a Windows machine. So I generally am the person doing the testing on Windows, but I do most of my work on Linux machines, whether that's through dev containers and Docker or on WSL. So and so you can do Blazor and Python notebooks now. There are, through Polyglot, I think you can do .NET and Python in the same notebook. So
Polyglot.
I don't know. Try it out. We should do another stream on Polyglot too, because that's really neat.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I think we're getting pretty close to time. Again, the repo, if you want to see some of the stuff that we were poking around with here, is aka.ms/notebook-hero. Certainly I'm on Mastodon and on YouTube and other places. So usually my handle is crazy4pi314. I'll put it in chat. Michael, do you have a social or
I'm less socially inclined, but you can always find me on GitHub. I'll be handling issues on there, and I think everything should be tagged in some way or another. But I am Yo-Yo Crazy with a K in my username since 5th grade, and it is not going away.
Mine is also my first. I was in high school when there was internet, So yeah, I'm just gonna put mine. Cool. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I think we're pretty much, this is like the first stream I may have. Oh yeah, VS Code, the producer, also reminds us that socials are in the information stuff below. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, if you have any like yeah, and we should do this again soon, Michael.
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen.
You definitely help make the notebook much more presentable.
I try.
So yeah, cheers everybody.
Yeah, see you everyone. Thanks for joining.